evening, everybody. It is great to be here this evening on the 4th of October with Johnny Mulvihill and all our compatriots here in St. Michael's College. We're celebrating the 50th anniversary of our graduation from this establishment, and it has sent us throughout the world, and we're very grateful for it. And it is great to have one of our former teachers here too this evening, Mr. Mike Mulcair. And apologies from Johnny Flaherty and Mr. Brian O'Brien. And I hope everybody is going to have a good evening, and I'm sure we will. I'll hand you over to Johnny now, and I'm sure he'll say a few words.
Thank you, Con. I'm delighted to be here hosting this evening. I'd like to pay tribute, first of all, to the organising committee, John Stack, Con Kirby, Pat Carden, Billy Keane. They did wonderful work in organising, gathering up the class of 75. That's 50 years ago since I walked through the halls of the gates of St. Michael's College, some 54 years ago. It's wonderful that they're here, and I hope, as Con said, that they'll have a wonderful evening. I'm delighted that I was part of that class. I have wonderful memories of those couple of years, travelling in from my van in the bus and meeting all the people from the war and Listowel, of course. But it brings back wonderful memories, and as Con said, I hope we all have a wonderful time. And we do think of the people that are no longer with us this morning, and we hope that above in heaven looking down on us and enjoying what is truly a wonderful day to be alive and to be part of the class of 75. I'd like to thank the committee again.
plan, because the clipboard was never heard of in our time in St. Michael's. So John Stack got it all together and chased people down. He's now been offered the job with the FBI. In the meantime, he has a few words to say to you.
Yeah, the professional here to do this, but just a few thanks to us mainly. We had a small little committee, Pat Corrigan, Billy and Con, and myself mainly, so I'd like to thank him for the support. Thanks to Johnny here then for everything we had about the refreshments, the photographer. Johnny and the school have looked after that, so thanks to them. I've been dealing with Patrice here, she's not here tonight, but Patrice and our staff, I think we're going to have a very good meal, so thanking them in advance. But then mainly I wanted to remember our classmates, and I'd like to thank Modest Lines for you who organised the Mass this morning.
Well, Modest.
It was a very nice touch, and I just want to name them here again for those of you who weren't at the Mass. So Alfie Neville from Bedford, Anthony Lyons, Lizetton, Martin O'Mahony, Lizetton, Jim O'Connor from Kilmorna, Kieran Keane from Lixnar, Modest Welch from the Square, Pat Kennedy, Conman Cross, Pat Moore, our father Pat Moore, SD, and Thomas Scanlon, Scahineern, and Noel McKellig at Lixnar. So we'd like to think of those. And maybe also I understand from that Tom Kennedy, Stan's brother, which is why Stan isn't here, is not that well in Canada. So maybe we keep him in our thoughts as well. So that's, and a number of teachers obviously have passed, but I don't have the list of names. So it's nice to see Mick Mulcair there today representing them. That's all I want to do now. I'm finished for the night. I hope it's First thing I meant to say was to thank all of you for coming. It's great to have such a number. There's a great buzz, so looking forward to the rest of it. That's it. Thanks.
We have a man here now, and 50 years ago, when we spent our last few days in St. Michael's, he was 500 to 1 with the bookies to be the principal of the school. Because he was full on always, and maybe that's why he's such a great principal. He has brought that school to new levels. The buildings and the infrastructure and the classrooms and the technology and the football pitch and all that, they're very important. But what he brought most to the school was niceness. Absolutely. When young lads go in there now, they're not afraid to go up that path. They get treated with great kindness. And Molly is an arm around the shoulder type of guy. He always was. And the young lads respond to him. The doors are never locked there. If they have a problem, they'll come to him, they have loads of backup, and it's a different school than our school. Not that everything was bad about the school, but Johnny has brought it to another level.
Here as Johnny Mulvey. I'm delighted to be here. When I went to St. Michael's first, I met Jimmy Collins, Pat Stack, Dean Galvin, meeting on the bus, Jimmy Beaton, our bus driver, fighting in the road, and we were looking together the whole time, of course, and into St. Michael's. But when I arrived as a student in St. Michael's, I learned something that I never forgot, camaraderie. And this class of 75, while I was there, I had a wonderful time. And it probably left an indelible mark in myself, how you should treat people. We were a great bunch of students growing up. We were lucky, we had a great team. Willie Keane was our best player, but Paddy Shea was our second best. But we lost no game that year in St. Michael. And in 1975, when we did graduate, there was no graduation ceremony. We just went off to our own different ways. And I met some people this evening for the first time since 1975. It is a wonderful achievement. I think John Hill is pretty right. It's great to be here tonight. It's great to be alive. There's 10 people gone, hopefully up to heaven, which we all believe in. We hope they're looking down on us. But it's great to be alive. It's great to be able to share happiness and joy. And as Billy rightly put, schooling has changed. It has changed for the better. But I often wish for the days we had too, because we had wonderful times. We had wonderful opportunities. I was at a meeting in the parliament last Friday, and they were saying about all these different nationalities. I said, when I went to St. Michael's, I said, there were 2 nationalities, the town and the country. That kept us quite over the year. But now there are 15 nationalities in St. Michael's College as we speak. 15 different nationalities in St. And the school has developed, but I can honestly say with great certainty, families haven't changed. There's a great love of education in North Kerry, and I would like to thank all the past teachers and all the past parents who see the value of education. That's the reason, more than tell, St. Michael's is thriving, because we do care for our students, but we know where we're coming from. We know where we're coming from. We don't know where we're going, but forget about transit stuff. As a student, I loved St. Michael's College. I loved going home with the bus in the evening. I loved coming in the morning. And as Billy said, something perfect. But as John B. Keane wrote in 1979 in his Interlude book, when he was being sent to St. Michael's, his father, John B.'s father, said, well, I can honestly say, it's as good as you will get. And he was telling the truth. It is not a building that makes a school. It is students. It is people like you. It's people like me. And I want to sincerely thank this man here tonight. If this function wouldn't take place, as Billy rightly said, this man led to what do we call this whole chat? There was a sheepish man behind him, Pat Cobden, and there was a sheepish man was Con Kelby. And I said, about 6 months ago, what we do? We want to organise who to give me the register. And I said, under GPDR, I can't give the register, but I leave there for half an hour. And the boys took photos. There's a photocopy. And in fairness to John Stack, he followed up everybody. And I think that's very important, that he didn't just say, oh, who's coming? And he has his lieutenants, B.D. Keane, Pat Carden and Con Kelly, local knowledge. But he got everywhere. And it's wonderful to be wonderful.
And he was behind us, came home several times, and we were great friends always. And he was smart, very, very smart. And it was just brilliant to see how well he did afterwards. Like many of us, like many of you, and I see so many of you here had to leave home, and there was people had to leave, and that was part of where we grew up. We lost the whole generation. You know, they went off to America, England, mostly I suppose, different places. And Pat had to go to England, even though he was very highly qualified that he did so well there. But he's a man, you know, when you look back on what came out of that school, and wasn't all perfect there, no. Pat and myself got a desperate wallop in first year. When I was up in that class today, the first year class, I thought of Pat getting a beating because of me, and I thought of John Buckley, who was beat every day because he sat near me. And I definitely ruined his education, but he turned out a very nice, decent man. But that was the thing about it, there was bad times there too, and I think that should have to be said. And there was fellas I spoke to about this when we were recruiting. The school didn't suit them because there wasn't enough, unlike now, there wasn't enough opportunities unless you were very good at subjects like Greek. which I was very good at because fuck all used to me and the rest of my life. If it was any use to me whatsoever, I'd be great at it. But so we have to acknowledge that too. But for the most part, we were a happy bunch. And I said to one fellow who didn't want to come, I said, it's the friendships, it's the boys. We're still boys from what I can see. And you might meet a fellow for 30 or 40 years, and all of a sudden you bump into him, and the trend and the conversation is the very same as it was 40 years ago when we were walking down the street 50 years ago. So, and it's still the same. So I just think Pat Carlton should now say a few words because I'm getting sick of talking about small folks. Pat Carlton.
One thing I learned about to speak when I speak is to try and keep it brief. So I just want to say when I was sitting next to Billy in first year, we were kind of very exuberant, and I was put to keep us quiet, and we were separated, and I was put sitting next to Con Kirby from the way who had already been very successful in taming Donegal a little bit, and so they thought that maybe it might work for me as well. But and I had a very enjoyable time with Con, sitting there. He kept me calm, and little did I think that he'd end up being my brother-in-law like 20 years later. So just to say briefly, when we got I've been coming home for about the last 5 years. I come home and I try and meet up with John and Jim Flaherty, Billy and Con, and we go on a day trip. We might go to, I don't know, the Cashin or Connaughton or take a day out in Nixon. We did various trips. And then we thought, what about if we got a bigger group, put a class together? And our ambitions were high. We thought if we got maybe 12, 15, we'd be doing well. We'd go for shoot for 20. And my goodness, thank you all for coming here. I think we've just about hit 40, and that's pretty extraordinary. So I also want to say thank you all for making the effort, and I hope we all have a great evening. And I'll pass you back to the Master of Ceremonies. Thank you.
No, there has been a very serious allegations of nepotism regarding the pub where we're going to after this. Guilty is all I can say about that. But there's a couple of grudging.
No, you're right, Billy. No, it's not right.
No, some fellas never change. Donegal is over there, and been through a tough old time. John has been through a tough old time, but they made it here tonight, and that's a thing called courage. It's also bad for the crack, and great to meet our friends. And it means so much to us that the two of you made it here today, because you had a bit of a harder battle than more of us. But I just want to kind of finish up by saying that if you think about it, we're right to make the most of tonight. So let's have a right good night, because I have a funny feeling some of you won't be here in 50 years' time. I just
want to thank the committee for inviting all of us, people who want to lift.
lovely man.
We didn't just invite this 1975 group, we invited all of us to start in 1970. I thought that was a lovely idea.
That was the whole plan. That was the whole plan. We're all in one. And came and went for different reasons, mostly not their own fault. But one thing I'd like to do now, and this just came suddenly into my head, we throw it open a small bit. There's a man there who was the smartest boy in our class in 6th class. No, Joe. Joe, you were 19th smartest. Number one. He was the smartest boy in our class in 6th class in the boys' school, in the Tony wing of the class. But Johnny Fitzmaurice, alias Tally Hall. He has a very unusual way of singing. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, Johnny, but will you give us, like, no, I've heard you go on for an hour, but could you give us Could you give us 3 or 4 minutes of the way you sing?
Yeah.
You know, the unusual singing you do.
Gracias.